Hey guys, welcome back for another video. I'm going to do my best to jump straight into it today because we have a lot to talk about. These are going to be the books and series that I'm most excited to get to in 2025. So I'm not going to make a promise that I'm going to get to all these books. I'm very, very easily distracted. So this is not a TBR. This is not even a goal. These are just the books that right now, at this moment in time, as I'm planning for a very good 2025, I love planning. I love beginnings. These are the books that I'm most excited about. These are the ones that are like itching at me. I'm excited to get to these. So I'm going to jump straight into it, and we're going to start with rereads. I absolutely love rereads. And my goal for 2025, one of the goals I have set for myself, is to set aside the stigma that rereading a book or a long series or whatever you want is wasting your time. I read for fun. I don't know about you guys, but at any given time, I want to be reading what I want to read. And I love rereads. And I know that we get this FOMO. Everyone's reading these new books and these new series. And if that is super fulfilling to you to get as much read in a lifetime as possible, then do that. But I have found that what feeds my soul when it comes to reading is a certain feeling and a certain experience that only specific series give me. Now, not every book I read needs to be earth-shattering, life-changing good. That's not going to happen. And not every book needs to be that. I'm fine with that. But when you find something special, something that lives in your brain forever after you read it, it changes you, okay? I know I'm being dramatic, but you guys know the types of books I'm talking about. Once you've found them, why wouldn't you want to go back? So some of that was a self-imposed mindset. Some of it came from outside sources, but I am putting it aside. Rereads are not a waste of time, in my opinion, for me. So I'm embracing them. And I have 2 big rereads planned for 2025. I've already started on one, and that is The Wheel of Time. This series is just incredibly special to me. I read these back to back in late 2019, and it was an experience that was so positive for me. These books took me somewhere when I needed an escape. They were comforting, and they served such a great purpose. But I've wondered since then, I have reread some of the books since then, but not the whole series. But I've wondered, do I love The Wheel of Time, or does it hold a special place in my heart strictly because of nostalgia? I read this at the very end of December. Like I said, it was supposed to be a 2025 adventure for some of my friends and myself. We got eager. We started in December. And so far, the magic is still there. I've loved every minute of this so far. And I'm dying to get to book 2. I was worried that it would have lost some of its luster because I've read so much since then. But if anything, everything I've read since then has made me appreciate this even more. So very, very excited about this reread. I'm doing it with, like I mentioned, some friends. For some of us, it is a reread, which is so cool to share that experience alongside other people who can have the same reaction to stuff. Oh, remember the first time we read this, I didn't know this is what this meant. That's a fun thing. But we also have a couple people reading it with us who it's their first time around. And it's so neat to experience this through someone else's perspective, their first go around. It just feels special. So very excited for that. And then the other big reread I'm doing this year is Sun Eater. So obviously I'm going to be reading it in anticipation of, new release. But honestly, mostly because ever since I finished Disquiet Gods, I have not stopped thinking about how badly I want to reread those books. Every time I start a new Sun Eater book, and I'm audio, so I fire up that audio, and Samuel Raukin starts reading. Is it Samuel Rukin or Samuel Raukin? I'm not sure. But either way, when he starts reading, and I'm back in Hadrian's mindset, and I'm viewing this story through the eyes of Hadrian Marlowe, immediately, every time I think, this is all I want to read. Why do I read anything else? And so when I finished Disquiet Gods last year, I was like, that's it. I'm coming back. I'm doing a Sun Eater reread. And I'm not sure when I'll start book 1, but I'm excited. I doubt it'll be much later than February because I just can't wait. All right, now I want to talk about some ongoing series I have. Now, these are series that are open. I've started them with no goal of I'm going to read 1 book a month or anything like that. So I'm loving these series. I may have put a pin in them for a while. I may have just kind of forgotten to come back to them. But as of now, these are all series that I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to have some more of that. First up is the Last Kingdom books by Bernard Cornwell. I love these. In fact, I love everything I've read from Cornwell. What's nice about these books is they are small. They're very quick reads, but they are good. A lot of times we think of like palate cleansers or short books. I don't know about you, but sometimes I think they need to go down a step or down a notch in quality to be considered a palate cleanser. But when you're still in the mood for something that's like really, really well written and it's like action packed and gritty, like you want a real book, but you still want it to be kind of like short and snappy. These are perfect. So I have book 1 here to show you, but I just finished last week book 6, and it's called Death of Kings, and it was just, it was so good, and it made me go, why don't I read these more often? So again, not doing one a month or anything, but I would like to get to the rest of these this year. I don't know, I think there's 11 of them, and I just finished book 6, so most of them are over there on my shelves. The audio, the narrator kind of changes from book to book, but there hasn't been a bad one yet, so super excited to get back to those. All right, Outlander. So originally, last year, I was going to read 1 book a month of these Outlander books with a group of friends, but they got way, way, way ahead of me. We did January, we did February. I loved both books. Like this book, the way she writes is so dreamy. I loved them, but come March, that's when my grandma got really, really sick. She had that major surgery, and I took a huge step back from reading, from social media, from everything, and she kind of consumed my life for a couple months. I did still read, but I wasn't ready for like huge books, and these are huge books. I think every single one of them is over 37 hours on audio, so these are like really long books, and I just took a back seat, but I started up book 3, which is called Voyager, yesterday, and immediately, boom, right back. The way she writes is so immersive. Like you are in Scotland when you read those, or wherever. They go to France, they go to London, they go to America, but like it's so immersive and it's just beautifully written. And of course it's romantic, but it's not trashy. Big fan. Can't wait to read some more of those this year. So a long time ago, a couple years ago, I read Never Die by Rob J. Hayes, and I loved it. Like it surprised me, and it still lives in my head. I loved that book, and I never got to the next 2. Pawn's Gambit, I do not remember the name of the third one. That's okay. Mortal Techniques is the name of the series, though. I have all the books. Why haven't I read them? Considering I enjoyed the first one so much, no one knows. But I would love to get to some more of those this year. Let's talk for a minute about Michael J. Sullivan. So I love Rhaenyra Revelations and Rhaenyra Chronicles. I'm going to show you guys this book right here. This is The Disappearance of Winter's Daughter. It's the final book of the Rhaenyra Chronicles. I love those books. I love Tim Gerard Reynolds. I love the way Michael J. Sullivan writes. Like it really is the perfect example of classic fantasy foundation with modern writing style. Like he delivers it slam dunk. I did not care for Legends of the First Empire as much. Like, you can ask me about that in private. We can talk about why. But that one did not work for me in the same way that these Rhaenyra books worked. But I still want to come back. And I was thinking about a reread. And then I thought, wait a second. He has books written in this world that you haven't read yet. And that would be Nolan and Fairlane and Ezra Haddon. And I know I said I was going to read books I already own, but I do already own them on audio. So I wouldn't have to go out of my way to purchase anything, but I will probably go to his website and order the physical books, because that's the best way to buy his books, by the way. They come directly from him, and they all come signed, and, you know, he gets a bigger cut if you buy them directly from him versus Amazon, so might as well. But anyway, I probably will buy them because I'm just crazy, but I'm really excited to get to those because I want more. I want to go back, but you know, like I said, I'm open to rereads. I embrace them, but maybe I should read what's left for me to read before I dip my toes back in with a reread. So I really am going to try to get to Nolan sooner than later, and then we'll see how I feel about the other 2. Something I've really been getting into more over the last couple of years has been historical fiction, and that's all thanks to this guy right here, Ken Follett. Pillars of the Earth is a favorite book of all times. It has memorable characters. The way he writes is just so immersive, and it just feels so lived in and real. Like, it truly feels like this guy knows what he's talking about when it comes to history. So I read Pillars of the Earth. It made a huge impact on me. A World Without End is, I don't know, I would say as good as Pillars of the Earth. It was on my top 10 of 2024, and so I'm really excited to get to some more of that. We have here The Evening and the Morning and A Column of Fire. What's nice about these books is it's not like a series that makes you feel like you got to get to the next one, because it's more of a collection of standalones that kind of all go together. So very excited to get to some more of those this year. Maybe just finish them all up. Real quickly, I want to show you guys some nonfiction that I'd like to read this year. I'm open to suggestions, but like I said, I'm trying to shop from my shelves, and I actually have bookshelves throughout my whole house. And in one of my living rooms, I have a shelf of biographies and nonfiction. And my father-in-law recently was looking at it, and he was like, "How many of these have you read?" And the purpose of having a home library is to have options, things that you haven't read yet so you can shop your own shelves. But it did make me feel a little embarrassed that I was looking at it and I was like, not many. I mean, that's not true. I probably have only read 25% of the books on that shelf though. But luckily I have the rest of my life. It's not a race. But here are 4 that I would really like to get to this year because I'm genuinely interested in them. I've heard great things. And I just love a well-written biography because it can read like a novel when it's presented so well. So I want to read this Abraham Lincoln book. This one is by David Herbert Donald, and it won a Pulitzer Prize. I want to read, this one's crazy that I haven't read it, honestly, because everyone who knows me knows that I am a big Hamilton the Musical fan, like really, really big. We can talk about that later. But anyway, I want to read Hamilton and Washington by Rob Chernow. I've heard nothing but amazing things about these. And to be honest, the only thing that has stopped me is just the fact that they're huge. And I love a big book, but every time I come to one of these, I'm just thinking about all of the books on my TBR that are not getting read because I'm reading these. But this year is just about reading what I want to read, not what I think I'm supposed to read. Another one I picked is Matterhorn, and this one's by Carl Marlantes, and it's about the Vietnam War, and I'm very excited to learn more about that through reading that book. This segment of the show is called Books I Should Have Read by Now. I meant to read them last year. I didn't, but we're not going to talk about it. Fury of the Gods by John Gwynne. The Will of the Many by James Islington. Empire of the Damned by J. Kristoff. Why haven't I read that yet? And, of course, the one everyone wants to know if I've read yet and why I haven't. Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson. We'll see. Real talk, though, I do have actual plans to read The Will of the Many as a buddy read in a couple months. Empire of the Damned is happening in February. Fury of the Gods, I will get to that before too long. And Wind and Truth, you guys, I don't know. Maybe that'll be a separate video. But I'm having a hard time getting myself excited to read that one. And there's probably like layers of reasons behind that. But I will probably read it in 2025 because I would love to complete that arc of Stormlight Archives. But yeah, haven't read it yet, and I don't have plans to, but I have hopes of it. Now let's get to the real star of the show, the new series I'm planning on starting in 2025. Now, if you and I had something planned together where I was like, yeah, we should totally read that together in 2025, just message me. I probably forgot about it. At some point I had a list going and I lost it. So this is all just off the top of my head. And like I said, I'm kind of shopping from my shelves. So if we had plans, just message me. I know I'm forgetting about some of the stuff I had planned for this year. I've mentioned several times how much I'm enjoying Guy Gavriel Kay. I want this to be a year heavy with Guy Gavriel Kay. So I've already read one, and it was A Brightness long ago, and I absolutely loved it. It was actually the first book I read this year, and there's just nothing like starting off your year with a 5-star read. So the next one I want to get to, and I just noticed, I thought I had books 1 and 2 of this series, but it turns out I have books 1 and 3. So I do have some shopping in my future. But I have here the Finovar Tapestry. Book 1 is called The Summer Tree. I don't know what these are about, but truthfully, I never know what Guy Gavriel Kay books are about until I start them. I do that on purpose, and it's worked out well for me so far. I've read Tigana. I've read my favorite Sarantine Mosaic, A Brightness Long Ago, like I mentioned, and I've read The Lions of Alrasan, and they've all been major hits for me, so I'm excited to get to these next. I do want to know, though, after I finish this series, it's a quartet, what should I read next? Knowing what I've already read of Guy Gavriel Kay, what should I read next? This is a book that has been on my shelf for so long, and every time I hear someone talk about it, I'm like, wow, that sounds like something I would love. The Bone Ships by R.J. Barker. I only have book 1. I'm very proud of myself because a weird thing I do is when I get the hunch that I'm going to like something or that I'm like definitely going to read it, I buy the whole series. And then sometimes it's a miss and I'm like, what did I do that for? So I was trying to be good and I only have book 1, but it does make me a little nervous doing that. It's like a security blanket having them all. So I'm going to read book 1, and if I love it, then I will get the rest. But I've been putting that off for so long for no reason. So I'm very excited to get to that. Another thing that I'm excited about that I think is going to be a hit for me is The Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu. So I have finished The Grace of Kings. We're about 15 days into the new year, so I've already read several books, and this is one of them. And this was an odd book for me because it's formatted kind of strange, but I like enough of what I read and have been comforted by getting some inside information about the direction that the series goes after this one, books 2, 3, and 4, that I am excited to keep going. I'm hoping that this will kind of become like a favorite because the people I know who love it, they are very reassuring when they explain to me like why they think I'm going to like it. It hits a lot of the notes that my favorite series also do well. So I have high hopes for Dandelion Dynasty. In book 1, like I said, it was kind of a strange book because it just wasn't what I expected it to be, but I did like it quite a bit, and I'm very excited to continue with those. Last year, I read several Greek-inspired books, and I really, really enjoyed them. I loved the mythology. I kind of loved learning about the difference between the author's interpretation of their version of these myths and legends, and then kind of cross-referencing those with like what I could learn through researching either online or some books I have about Greek history. I was like drawn into that aspect of the retelling of stories that were stories to begin with. I don't know. I think it's cool. So this year I would like to read the Iliad. This is the translation I have. If anyone's ever read it and they have any tips for me, please let me know because I'm a little intimidated by it, but I do want to read it. So we'll see if I get to it. But man, that's something that would be really cool to scratch that off my bucket list. So I mentioned just a minute ago about how I have a bad habit about buying an entire series of books before I've even started it or before I even really know if I'm going to like it. And I did that with 2 book series last year. I accumulated and acquired all the books, and now they're just ready for me to read them. And so I don't know if I'm going to start them both in 2025. I'll save one for next year. I don't know. But I've got these 2 guys, and I want you guys to help me decide which one I should read. So I have C.S. Friedman, and this series is called, well, you know what? I don't even know what this series is called. It got me with the Michael Whelan art on the front. I absolutely love that. I don't know what this series is called. Okay, the book 1 is called Black Sun Rising. Surely I can find it on here, right? Either way, Black Sun Rising by C.S. Friedman. It's a book 1 of a series that has a name. And this one is King's Dragon by Kate Elliott. And this series is also called Crown of Stars. See, they do the right thing here. Volume 1, Crown of Stars. So I don't really know much about either of these. I think this is a trilogy, and I think this has 6 books. That doesn't really add up to a pro or con either way for me. Like, I guess trilogies are more consumable, but I'm not scared of a 6-book series either. So I don't know if I'll read both of those this year or if I'll just pick one, but let me know in the comments if you've read either or both or which one you think I should start, or maybe you want to start one of them this year and we could read it together and that would help me decide. So just, comment below and we'll see what we got going on with those. Have a couple more stragglers on the shelf that as I was perusing, I was like, what are you still doing up there? How come I've never read these? The first one is the Elric Saga by Michael Moorcock. I don't really know much about these or much about him. other than he has an awesome, hilarious last name that we make lots of jokes about because we're 12 apparently. But anyway, I think these are like old school sword and sorcery inspired. I have both of them, volume 1 and 2, in these really pretty bind ups. And I think there's books within this book, so it sounds like something that would be a really good palate cleanser, probably not too deep, nice little short volumes that would be great to kind of like stick in between some of these like huge books I'm planning to read this year. So let me know if you guys have read these and if I'm on track with what I'm thinking these types of stories might be good for in my TBR. And then also, look at this gorgeous cover. I have been trying to read these books by Shauna Lawless for years, it seems like. Every time I hear somebody say that they've read them, it's always glowing. And every time I hear like what it's about and what the setting is, I'm like, that sounds exactly like something I would enjoy. But for some reason, I've just never pushed play. I've never opened it up to page 1. I don't know why, but it's a shame that this gorgeous book has been sitting on my shelf for far too long. So I would really like to prioritize that sooner rather than later. So if it's love for me, I can hop on the train and read the rest of those. So that's mostly it, you guys. I've got a couple other things that I don't have, like physical. One of them is the Matthew Corbett series by Robert McCammon. I loved book 1, and I read it 2 years ago. Like, why didn't I continue? I have no idea. I don't have physical copies of those because they're like impossible to get or something. So I have most of them on Kindle. I have several on audio, and I would really want to get back to those because I just absolutely loved the first one. And also, in the vein of loving and embracing rereads, I am in the middle of a Live Ship Traders reread, and I just read about, 10 to 20 minutes every night before I go to bed. And by every night, I mean most nights. So this is a reread that I'm taking very slowly, but I'm enjoying every minute of it. I'm on book 2, which is Mad Ship. And I just think I'm always going to be in an active Robin Hobb, Realm of the Elderlings reread, because they are my favorite books. So far, I have reread all the Fit series, and it was an awesome reread experience. And Live Ship is just doing its thing, too. I'm really, really enjoying my time back with the Vestrit family. And then I will reread Rainwilds, and then I'll start over again with the Farseer trilogy again. So always rereading Robin Hobb is just the way to do it, in my opinion. So that is basically what I have planned as of now for 2025. Like I mentioned, I'm open to more stuff. Like, for sure, this is not everything I'm going to read in 2025. But as of now, as I'm, like I said, taking into account what I already own, the things that I've been truly wanting to read and just kind of been pushed into the back of the line, I feel like this is the year for those books to shine. So I'm excited. I hope you guys have plans that you're in love with as well. Please hop in the comments and let me know if you're planning to read any of these books this year. Maybe we can line our schedules up so we don't have to read alone. So give me a shout. Love you guys. I will talk to you soon.